Well, West Virginia really likes Andy Kotelnicki, and there's a 50-50% chance that this happens.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Zach Seyko. I'm your host of the show. This is a quick reaction to try to get in front of this as much as possible. Just reacting to the information. Andy Kotelnicki to West Virginia. Is it going to happen? Could it happen? What are the things that... So in about 15 to 20 minutes here, and if you have any questions or comments, we'll talk about it in this live reaction as well. So it sounds like it is down to Rich Rodriguez and Andy Kotelnicki, and West Virginia reporters have gone on the record to say that if Andy Kotelnicki wants the job, it is his job. If he wants the West Virginia job, it is his job. Talked about this. Gosh, how quickly information moves. A week ago, we addressed it and I said that West Virginia, if they want Andy Kotelnicki, Kotelnicki would take the job. I didn't think it was likely based on who they were interviewing. Tulane's head coach, Rich Rodriguez, who coached there once upon a time. It is down to Kotelnicki and Rich Rodriguez. So Andy Kotelnicki went from one of 9 candidates, which odds weren't in their favor. They were going to go with a proven vet at head coach. But in real time, it is down to Rich Rodriguez of Jacksonville State and formerly West Virginia and Andy Kotelnicki. Kotelnicki will take this job. If they offer it to him, if Rich Rodriguez, this is a step up for Kotelnicki. As much as Penn State fans, and obviously I don't want to see him go. I don't want to see him go as Penn State's offensive coordinator. Look how much better with this almost the exact same offense. From Mike Yurcich to Andy Kotelnicki. Yes, Drew Aller's a year older, Singleton, Allen, all that stuff, right? But the offense at its core was almost exactly the same, and it went from barely a top 50 offense to a top 10 offense. So the Kotelnicki effect is real, which is why he is so resounding, why people want to take this risk in Morgantown and go with someone who does not have any head coaching experience. It's a 50-50 chance. There are people from here. I'm just here to share what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing in real time. It's down to Rich Rodriguez and Andy Kotelnicki. And if Andy Kotelnicki wants the job, it is his. I can't see what keeps him in Happy Valley. I genuinely can't, because when I think about how Kotelnicki wants to become a head coach, when I think about how he's going to get a significant pay raise, he would probably get triple. In this market, he's getting $1.5 million. I think his contract for Penn State maxes out at $1.5 million annually. So he's making about $1 million right now, maybe a little more. But West Virginia would pay him $4 to $5 million. That is a quadruple pay raise. How can he not take the West Virginia job? This is a Power 4 conference. So I get it. Penn State's offensive coordinator spot is a coveted position, but so is being the head coach. It's not even about West Virginia. It is about the fact that this is a Big 12 team, Power 4 conference, quadruple, quintuple pay raise, a program that is going to give you resources to succeed. Andy Kotelnicki, because of who he is, can succeed at West Virginia. That is the fact of the matter, is that he can actually succeed at West Virginia. Man, I don't like that. I don't like that at all, honestly. Andy Kotelnicki being in such close proximity to Penn State. So Penn State's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting here if they really, really want to do this. I personally do not know at this point in time. I'm trying to gather this if he would leave in the middle of the postseason. I think Penn State can block that because he is under contract, but please do not quote me on that. Do not quote me on the fact that, because there are buyouts. I don't know the legalese of a contract and how this would all work. But this is a turning point, at least in the way that Kotelnicki or Rich Rodriguez is available. It's just a bowl game. What happens if Penn State goes to, let's say he is stuck. I don't want to say stuck. All right. He's willingly at Penn State, right? But say he has to be committed to Penn State's postseason run. So they play next on December 21st. Why would West Virginia want to wait for its head coach 12 days later to make a decision, and they keep winning, right? They're favored against SMU. They're going to be favored against Boise State. And honestly, they have a legitimate shot to win in the semifinal against any of Notre Dame, Georgia, and Indiana. Any of the three that make it, Penn State is right there. They're not going to be a massive underdog. I think they'd even be a favorite against those three teams. Yes, against Georgia and Notre Dame. All things considered, my point being is that Kotelnicki would be on a 5-week waiting period, and West Virginia has to think about itself as a program. Rich Rodriguez can come in now. The transfer portal just opened today, Monday, December 9th. They need answers now. They need to be competitive now. But what's interesting about this whole head coaching situation is that there are very powerful people involved. It's not just, West Virginia, boosters, right? People who support the program financially. I'm hearing that government officials are involved in this coaching search. It is strange. It is a strange dynamic. It's a 50-50 chance. Andy Kotelnicki, Rich Rodriguez, that's really who it's down to. We'll get your comments in here real quickly. Like I said, this is kind of a simple recap because we don't know what it's going to be, but you have to project what could happen here since it's becoming more likely. This went from a 1 in 10 chance, a 10% chance to now 50-50. We're playing the odds here. We are playing the odds. So we'll check in on your comments. We'll talk about how this obviously affects Penn State after addressing that. What could happen and how likely is it to happen on the other side of this break. And today's live show is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite, and right now you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. Again, that is Omaha Steaks. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. You can keep tackling the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you will get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place, so when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, and it's all on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And if we look over at FanDuel.com, yes, the lines are up for Penn State versus SMU. Penn State is an 8.5-point favorite. The total is set at 53.5. So at least a touchdown for Penn State against this Mustangs team. Penn State should win this game. If you like those lines for either side, Penn State or SMU, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com. And remember, you will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, that is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, let's jump back in with the comments section. Thanks so much for joining me on this live show here. Like I said, this is going to be brief, about another 8 to 10 minutes or so, just to react to the news that this is now a 50-50 possibility. He would be leaving a place where he gets credit for the good things, but his boss gets the blame for the bad things. That is interesting. So James Franklin deserves credit here. I look at it like this. It is not the end of the world. Obviously, my preference would be for Penn State to retain Andy Kotelnicki, but my take on this is that the next great offensive coordinator mind is going to want this job. And I know it's a vicious cycle, but you are at least getting somebody, and Penn State knew this. James Franklin doesn't hire Andy Kotelnicki with the idea that, well, we're going to keep him for 5 to 6 years. They knew where they were. The fact of the matter is James Franklin went all in on trying to make this a national championship caliber team under the circumstances. That is why they fired Mike Yurcich in the middle of the season. It was to get a head start on vetting the next offensive coordinator because they knew with a second-year starter in Drew Aller, Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen improving, what they could do through the transfer portal to add complementary pieces. You had Abdul Carter, you had Denai Dennis Sutton, you had Zane Durant. They knew what they had. And they knew with the 12-team playoff, we got to go all in on the national championship for the 2024-25 season because that's when the playoffs are played, or the championship anyway. So Penn State, James Franklin knew that he had to go get a home run, and if it meant that this is a one-year plan, maybe you get 2 years out of Kotelnicki, fine. But it's not like this blindsided anybody. Kotelnicki's leaving after 1 year. They knew that this was a possibility, that he was going to get head coaching interest because he has succeeded every step of the way. And with the way that college football moving is now, the market and the money involved, it makes a lot of sense here. Let us pray for Pat McAfee to be so loud about Rich Rodriguez that West Virginia is pressured into hiring him. This could benefit us if we come with a longer, bigger contract for Kotelnicki. This doesn't end. I will say this. It's not about West Virginia. So if Kotelnicki stays for another season, potentially two, his timeline in Penn State is limited. This is going to keep happening every offseason because West Virginia gets its next coach, but then jobs will open up in the SEC, and it's a domino effect, which means they will go get coaches. Tulane's head coach was in the running, right? All these dominoes will continue to fall because I thought Billy Napier was done at Florida, for example. I was wrong about that. It doesn't matter now. That's not the point. My point being is that the domino effect of coaches, because Florida will go get somebody else, and then that program will have to go get somebody, and then that program will have to get somebody. So it's not so much about West Virginia. It's about Power 4 schools being interested in Andy Kotelnicki as its head coach. Andy Kotelnicki can get a job that like I said, he would want the West Virginia job. This is a step up for him. He wants to be a head coach, and it's a program with resources. The Mountaineers are second class to Penn State when it comes to football, but that doesn't matter in the scheme of things. A quadruple pay raise, that's what matters. Being at a Power 4 school, being the head coach, that matters. Throw the checkbook at him, and we need some continuity in our coordinators. You can't pay an offensive. I mean, you can, but it would be a bad move. You can't pay an offensive coordinator $4 to $5 million. That's the line's drawn. Andy Kotelnicki is a top. I think he is the top offensive coordinator, or he's a top 5 paid offensive coordinator. I think there's some select other coordinators that are paid maybe $250,000 or $500,000, slightly more. So if Penn State writes a $500K check, again, you're going up against potentially a $4 to $5 million offer annually from West Virginia or another program in a year's time. Dr. Kraft, we'll see you now. If West Virginia makes the offer to Andy Kotelnicki, it is happening. The nuances of Penn State's contract, when they would release him, I'm interested. It's not so everyone would need to root for West Virginia pivoting back to Rich Rodriguez. And this is why it's so 50-50, because I am hearing that powerful people outside of West Virginia football want Rich Rodriguez. But a strong core of people that are in West Virginia, that are part of the West Virginia football program, want Andy Kotelnicki. They want this change. They see the new direction. They are willing to take the risk. So it's kind of the old versus the new. The old way of West Virginia versus, hey, we see a new vision that let's take a risk now and take a step back so that we can propel ourselves forward in 2-3 years' time. That they are willing to take the risk on Kotelnicki not being available for 3 to 4 weeks with the transfer portal, with how college football moves so fast and being behind on recruiting, that West Virginia is willing to take this risk. And I think that speaks volumes. Let's talk about Penn State briefly before I have to go here. And we're going to talk about it more. We're going to talk to Locked On West Virginia, Mountaineer Paul, see what he's hearing as well. So this is going to be an ongoing conversation in real time. How it affects Penn State. As I've mentioned already before, Penn State is in a better situation because now, okay, You don't have to look at the Mike Yurcich example. You can look at Andy Kotelnicki and the next great offensive mind. Penn State has its pick, has its choice of what offensive coordinator, because now offensive coordinators are going to want to come to Happy Valley. They're going to want to work with James Franklin because, hey, I can fast track my career at Penn State and go to the NFL. I mean, maybe NFL may be a stretch, but I can at least get better job prospects down the line. And I said, it is a vicious cycle, but it's still going to be enticing to somebody, or just somebody who wants to succeed. If Penn State really wants to take a step back and say, we need longevity, we need continuity, we can't do this rotation of coordinators year in and year out, you're still going to get the best candidates available, because James Franklin has shown that whether you are looking for the next head coaching job or whether you are just looking for stability and you're looking for a place to succeed and a good paycheck while you're at it, other than the Oregon game, Tom Allen has done an incredible job this season for Penn State. That was a top 10 defense statistically before they took on Oregon. So recency bias says that Tom Allen stinks, but that is not the case when you look at a 12-game slate. Tom Allen did an incredible job. My point being is that coordinators can succeed and have good support at Penn State. This is an ideal job for anybody. Penn State has its preference, though. Penn State can say, okay, we want you as an offensive coordinator, and they don't have to beg for somebody's services. But if Andy Kotelnicki does in fact leave, this is what I want to finish with and give. We'll talk about this more. Don't get me wrong. I will be back here today, tomorrow. It's an everyday podcast, right, folks? This impacts Drew Aller's decision. If Andy Kotelnicki leaves, Drew Aller's got to go to the NFL. I can't imagine Aller wanting to stay and go through a third offensive coordinator change. That is probably going to hurt his stock more. What other players would leave? And then there's the idea, if Drew does come back, if Danny O'Brien gets the promotion, let's say Penn State really is all in on Danny O'Brien because there's positive intel that O'Brien is close, or Ty Howell. One of those guys gets promoted to offensive coordinator. Drew Aller happens to stay for another season. Bo Prabula is going in the portal and going with Andy Kotelnicki if Kotelnicki goes to West Virginia. It's too obvious not to talk about. That's if Aller comes back. But I can't see Aller wanting to go through a third offensive coordinator change unless Penn State stays in-house, unless they believe that Ty Howell is the guy at offensive coordinator. And if you're looking for longevity, the people that are screaming longevity, continuity, stop this revolving door, and then Penn State hires in-house like a Ricky Ronnie a few years back. I know he's at Old Dominion, but Ty Howell is a Penn State guy. Ty Howell, that might be his forever job, or at least a job that he would stay for 5, who knows? So this is the battle here, what Penn State wants to do. But Kotelnicki is, I don't think he stays beyond 2 years. The West Virginia's job, I'll conclude with this. The West Virginia job is his if he takes it, or if West Virginia offers it to him. He will take it. There is no doubt in my mind. There's just all the logistics and the nuances of contracts and everything else and Penn State's postseason run. Andy Kotelnicki's earned this. James Franklin knew what he was doing when he hired Andy Kotelnicki. This was always going to happen. It's just been rather accelerated. I thank you for tuning into and I didn't even get to every possibility here with this situation, but here's what we know. It's a 50-50 chance. It's down to Rich Rodriguez and Andy Kotelnicki. The base of West Virginia, powers that be, are truly split, and anything could happen. I would not be surprised if it's Rich Rodriguez, and at this point, I would not be surprised if it's Andy Kotelnicki. I am speaking from Penn State's point of view. This will happen if West Virginia offers Andy Kotelnicki the coaching job. He will take it, and he would be wrong not to take it. He would be wrong not to take the West Virginia job if it is offered to him. My name is Zach Seyko. Thank you so much for checking out this instant live recap. As things progress, we will have more conversations. We will be live again in due time. Don't you worry. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. You allow me this platform to speak about Penn State football and the other sports that we cover, like wrestling and basketball. So thank you. This show is nothing without you. And I will talk to you very soon here again on Locked On Nittany Lions.